Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Nuggy Guys podcast. I'm your host, Sid, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Pat and Doug, as well as the first time ever having the full Nuggy Guys gang together, Jared and Kenton as well.
Howdy, it's good to be on here. I didn't think I'd ever do it, but I guess I'm here, so.
We got them convinced, boys. We did it.
I guess.
Got the full gang.
Yep, good. We don't got video rolling right now. You can't see what it took for us to get him here, but he's here.
Right.
So, and
He's here, and
he's going to be back.
Not tied down very much, so
No,
we're good.
not too tied down.
We're good.
So we'll make it.
So this is our month of June recap. Jared, you want to kick us off on news?
So, University of Pennsylvania agrees to strip the medals from Leah Thomas as part of a big deal, apparently, with the White House get in line, apparently, to get funding back. So, that's good news for Riley Gaines, obviously, who won this championship on that and has got the title stripped, and basically for women's sports across the country.
So for those who maybe not as aware, Leah Thomas was the transgender swimmer, right?
Correct.
Controversial transgender swimmer. Yeah, I haven't followed that very much, but I know when Trump got in office, it became a bigger issue.
Yep, definitely did. Sid, do you want to kick us off on what's probably the biggest news story of this month, which is bombing Iran?
Yeah, well, not just the bombing of Iran, definitely the most interesting from the American perspective, probably, but as they call it, the 12 Days of War. I was following that here fairly closely from a news channel actually based in Israel, and seeing live updates as missiles were coming in and people were going to the shelters and things, so that made for an interesting 12 days to see what was going on there. Trump likes to say he negotiated the peace treaty. You never know who's playing what cards behind the scenes, but that's what they all want you to think, at least, and it's probably true. Probably true, but the war in that specific sector has ended by now. They're still fighting in the Gaza Strip, and I believe there's still some occasional drones and missiles from Yemen.
Yeah, they still get a few attacks from Yemen last I saw. But I saw some people accusing Donald Trump of doing a Nobel Peace Prize speed run because he keeps solving all these conflicts, supposedly. And they said, oh, he's just out there, he's just trying to get a peace prize.
Well, did he say he wanted it or something?
Well, Pakistan actually put him in to win it.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Pakistan then?
Yeah.
Not Pakistan.
Well, like we talked about last time we were on here, India versus Pakistan.
Oh, that.
It'd been sort of fuzzy on whether or not he had actually been the dude who negotiated it, but apparently so, because the Pakis put him in for it. Now that he went and bombed Iran, the Pakis aren't quite as happy. Who knows, maybe they'll take him out for that. But anyway, just interesting stuff. He also ended a conflict in Africa, or he got the leaders to sign a deal saying they would.
Yeah, well, better than Obama, for sure. Obama bombed the Middle East royally. Billions or millions and billions of American dollars flown over there and dropped, and crazy stuff, and you don't hear about it anymore. But Trump bombs about 14 bombs, and everybody gets up in the air.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the thing is, like, I mean, obviously you can't justify a war, but like, there was a reason he did what he did, because Iran had nuclear. Like, I followed it sort of, but I haven't like followed it like crazy much. But like, am I right in saying that Trump did it because he did not want Iran to have nuclear, because he realized how dangerous it would be if Iran got nuclear?
Correct. So, Iran has been chanting death to America for years now. And back when Trump was just getting into politics about 10 years ago, he had already said, I will never let Iran have a nuclear weapon. So all the people, it's really interesting to see politics as being this little horseshoe kind of where you have this is kind of controversial, but far right and far left are actually closer together. It's interesting to look at all the different parties and where different people come out. And a lot of people that are yelling, no, stay out of this conflict. Trump, he's supposed to be peace through strength, and now all of a sudden, we start a big war in Iran. A big war? No, wars, we believe that war is never right, obviously. But, I mean, nations of the world will do their thing. The good news is, I don't know a number on civilian casualties and people and whatnot over in Iran. I don't think it was a lot. They took out the reactors. There's not American troops on the ground in Iran. Call it a war, call it a bombing, call it whatever you want. But it seemed to be like, boom, bam, I'm done.
Strategic airstrikes from the U.S.
Are we going to talk about how cool the bombs were?
Well, we can go into that.
Literally, I mean, I'm just making a point, but like, literally, it was like, I don't know, they were bunker bombs, right?
Bunker busters.
Or bunker busters. That's
Heavy
the word.
ordnance
And they
penetrators.
basically they go down into the ground and then blow up, like down.
Yes.
So like basically the nuclear sites were under the earth, right? They were under
under several hundred feet.
Under
of granite.
yeah, okay, under several hundred feet of granite. So these bombs were designed to basically drop down through and then explode.
Yes, so they have special fuses that basically detect when they get to a cavity, and they just wait as they're just boring through the earth. Well, they usually have an initial explosion that helps them get into the ground, then they just bore through until they detect a cavity and blow up.
Yeah. Wow. And the planes came out of Missouri here.
I'm trying to remember, how heavy are the bombs? They're pretty heavy,
30,000
right? I was thinking 30,000. I was like, that sounds like a lot.
Wow. Isn't that like the biggest non-nuclear weapon? Or am I...
Yeah, they're close to 30,000 pounds. No. I believe there is a larger...
So the ones they dropped in Iran were the bunker busting variant, which are called MOPs. We also have the Moab, which is like sort of like the open air variant. I don't actually know which one is each.
MOP is a massive ordnance penetrator.
Yeah, Moab is massive ordnance air blast, I believe. It's commonly referred to as the mother of all bombs. That's basically why they named it that. I don't know which one of those is actually heavier, but they're basically similar.
Is that
It's nuclear. It's nuclear. It's the largest nuclear bomb ever tested.
I know it was a big bomb, but I can't remember if it was nuclear or non-nuclear. Interestingly enough about these bombs, at least per Wikipedia, the explosive weight is just over 5,000 pounds of explosives. So it's not actually... I mean, a lot of your weight is apparently from your jacketing and guidance and things. It's not a lot from the explosives.
Oh, what I was going to say was Trump basically said he was going to wait 2 weeks to make a decision, right? And then that next Saturday night, he goes and bombs them. Like, that had to take them off guard pretty good. Because they weren't expecting it, were they? Or am I thinking right? I mean, I don't know. You get so many different opinions, but...
It's hard to know what the Iranians are thinking. I think they probably saw that and felt a little more comfortable, but they've been knowing basically since the Israelis started attacking them that it was probably a 70% chance sooner or later we were going to drop those bombs on those facilities. So they knew it was sort of coming.
Yeah, and the thing is, am I correct in saying that there's no airplanes beside U.S. airplanes designed to drop these bombs?
Yes,
like
right.
you can't just give them to Israel and let them do the dirty work. Mm-hmm. Took some B-2s. I think the B-52 is also possible to use for dropping them, but not stealth or anything.
Yeah, it is theorized you can maybe dump them out of the back of a C-130 cargo plane, but no, the B-2's in the aircraft, so they can drop them.
Mm-hmm. And it can, like, disappear off of radar. And stuff. Which is kind of cool. Technically, right?
Well, it's...
I mean, that's why they're built so thin, right?
Yes, that's why they're built the way they are. That's why they got the absorbent coatings they have on them. But also, it's not exactly that they disappear off of radar. You just can't detect them as quickly on radar. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're invisible. Everybody likes to say, oh, stealth is invisibility. It's not. We could go into that later. That's a whole separate podcast.
Well, but it's also true that onboard radars on aircraft cannot easily detect them, right?
That's
so
true.
while you can detect them with your ground radar, if your fighter jets can't detect them, they're a lot harder to shoot down.
Yeah, until you're within maybe, let's say, 15 to 2 miles. I don't know. Somewhere in that range, you probably start tracking them decently with your aircraft.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're not as stealthy as they may be portrayed to be, but they're pretty cool.
Yep.
And to think that we made that, like, they were designed in the, 1980s and 90s and haven't been produced since, I think, 2000.
And there's only 20 B-2 bombers, and they're all housed at Whitman.
I think there's only
Just
19 by now.
Is there only 9? Okay.
I think there were 21 were produced, one was decommissioned, and one was wrecked, I think.
Yeah, we're down to 19 airframes, and supposedly we use pretty much all of our airframes just for that strike because we send some across the Pacific as a distraction, and they send 12 across to Iran, and so basically we maxed out our limit at that point.
Of the B-2s or of
yeah.
the... Yeah, right.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the U.S.
There was like 100. Wasn't there like 125 personnel that were involved in the whole operation? Like not just planes, but like they had some ground crew and they had. Did they have some ships? Like the Navy had some ships over there and stuff. There was
ships moving.
I just like browse the news and just see different. That's where I learned all that.
Yes, they had Navy ships because they were launching. Okay, we don't know this for sure, but they basically admitted that some of the fighters were off of a carrier in the Red Sea there, and there was also fighters off of different bases in the area that came and flew along.
But they would have had hundreds of people on those ships that were moved.
Yes.
Like the Nimitz.
Yeah, that's right. What I was gonna say was talk about was the shootings in Minnesota. I'll just read the Wikipedia because that's easiest. On June 14, 2025, Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman was assassinated in a shooting at her home in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, United States. Hortman, the leader of the State House Democratic Caucus, was killed alongside her husband, Mark. Earlier that morning, State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, were shot in their home in nearby Champlin and hospitalized. Police responding to the attack on the Hoffmans checked on the Hortmans' home, where a man fired at them. The shooter escaped, sparking the most extensive manhunt in Minnesota history. The authorities identified 57-year-old Vance Bolter as a suspect and captured him on the evening of June 15, and he was charged with murder and second-degree murder and all kinds of murder. Anyways, that's my news.
Not to be confused with the shooting of firefighters.
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah. This was like the Congress people in Minnesota, like state Congress people. And he like dressed up as a cop and like went to their homes and knocked on the door. He had like a cop car and everything.
Okay, Ken, you got any comments on that?
Not really, other than, I mean, cool's not the word, but it was a smart idea that he used a cop car and he dressed up as a cop and came to their door and knocked. I mean, he said he was a cop and everything.
Yeah, but isn't that like...
Oh, and he shot the guy's dog, too. So we got to remember the dog. I forget what the dog's name was.
So then he's basically the worst of the worst because he's dressing up as like
he
a
was
good guy.
Yeah, he was like he worked for the government. He was like I don't know the whole story, but he worked for the government.
So was it illegal impersonation, or was he actually a cop?
No, he wasn't a cop.
Okay, so it was unlawful.
No. He was dressing up as a cop. Yeah. But he was like he shot him. He had like a whole list of people he was going to kill, like of Democrats and stuff that he was going to kill because he was mad at them or something.
So,
and
how far did he make it? He
made it like
right?
2 houses, and then they say he knocked on a couple doors, other houses or other people's doors, but they weren't home. These were the only 2 people that were home. And then he ran off, and like 2 days before they called him, or 1 day, I forget, a day or 2, something like that. And then they called him and then threw him in jail. But
do we know the breed of dog? Like, if it's a Chihuahua, I'm like, let's go.
I think it was a lab. Let me pull it up.
That's sad then.
What?
I mean, we're talking about people getting shot versus dogs. It's not...
Yeah, you're right.
So, moving from one psychopathic shooter to the next, in Idaho, there were 2 firefighters shot and killed after a guy started a fire, basically to lure them in, killed 2 of them, injured a 3rd, and then he eventually was shot either by himself or by the SWAT or other law enforcement that showed up. Supposedly roughly 200 some officers eventually responded to it. I can hardly understand people who are so low down that you would start a fire just so you could kill firefighters. Like, those are often the most selfless people that we even have in this country. Why are you out there killing them? It makes zero sense.
Amen.
And it's really interesting to me, like, why did he target firefighters? Like, he has to have something there, don't you think?
Did he have a grudge against them or something?
Why did, like, it would make more sense. Like, the average psycho would target law enforcement, right? They're always trying to do stuff like that. All I can find is that he was found dead from gunshot wounds. Whether or not that was self-inflicted or not, I'm fairly certain it was, but hey, you never know. We don't have all the info on the story yet, but not cool. So
yeah, you'd have to be low down to do something like that.
What was his age?
He was 20.
Yeah.
So he was my age. Man, that's creepy.
Yeah, what's wild to me with all these is how unsuccessful people are when it comes to mass shootings and stuff. Like, I feel like you could kill 2 with, your first 2 shots and then go on and kill a whole lot more if you actually did your homework right. It seems like so many shootings are very undereducated, unprepared people when it comes to firearms and their capabilities.
Is that because a lot of these shooters are already mentally unstable? Or
probably. And they come from unstable family situations or whatever.
Alright guys, so this month in New York City, Zohran Mamdani beat out Andrew Cuomo in the in the primary run for New York City mayor. Mamdani is a 33-year-old Muslim socialist, basically running on policies like government-run grocery stores, defunding the police, all the amazing socialist policies that have worked so well in history, and will definitely not lead to a dystopian hellhole. Interesting part of this race was that Cuomo won. This is a stat. I think this is true. I haven't verified it. Cuomo won overwhelmingly with those making under $50,000 a year, while Mamdani won the wealthy and those with a 4-year college degree, which is interesting because it shows that socialism is the ideology of the elite and not necessarily something the common people see as a solution to financial distress.
But what is very interesting is he is the one. So the rich people voted for him, but then he is actually the one that wants to tax the rich more, right? Am I thinking right? Like,
Yep.
Doesn't he want to basically take everything from the rich and give it to the poor, the lazy, the whatever? That's pretty much how communism works, right?
Well, this is socialism, which is different.
But I believe socialism will lead to communism. So let's say he wins. New York City can be socialist, but it'll be communist before you know it. Socialism always leads to communism.
I would say what he's saying is basically communism. At the point you're
But-
owning grocery stores, I would say that's communism.
Okay, you're valid.
So if you don't like New York City, you can move to Missouri. But you gotta be like good to move to Missouri.
What's crazy is I just heard Matt Walsh talking about a debate he was having with a right-wing guy. He's like, "Oh yeah, this guy was all excited about this, all because Mamdani was anti-Jew, anti-Zionist." And he thought, "Oh, well, that just he agrees with him. Well, he doesn't agree with funding sex change surgeries for children with taxpayer money and government and grocery stores and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, he just agrees with this guy just for the one thing." So that's interesting. I guess we'll see in November what the general election does. Personally, an Italian, mafia background person, are they going to be going for this? No.
So a little bit of news from my corner of the chair here, of the world. There was an earthquake near Puerto Rico in the Dominican Republic, somewhere between 5.4 and 5.7 magnitude on June 23. About 10:40 local time. I was in Puerto Rico over that, nothing strong enough to wake me up, so it wasn't too bad. Nothing crazy happened in Puerto Rico. It didn't sound like no tsunamis or anything.
My question is, are earthquakes more normal nowadays, or do I just hear about more of them? Do we just track them so much better that you hear about every single earthquake everywhere?
Wasn't there a bunch in California just recently? I thought maybe.
I don't remember any. I thought I saw there was some over in Iran.
Yep.
Which could lead
That
to
was
the
from the
conspiracy.
bombs.
Well, could lead to the conspiracy theory that the government is capable of causing them. If you believe the whole Antarctica and the government controls
I
the
would
weather.
study into that, honestly, because there might be something behind that.
Here's the deal.
But I'm not a conspiracy theorist, so.
The U.S. did have a program during the Vietnam War working on controlling the weather so that we could just flood Vietnam. But it didn't really work.
Guess what we did instead? Flooded them with Agent Orange.
And that still didn't work.
Yeah, that was.
So that's
a
where
bad idea.
that's where a lot of the theories nowadays come from, that we control the weather.
Hey, little fun fact: the Agent Orange was not bad for humans because it was Agent Orange. It was because it was contaminated with another chemical. It was contaminated with dioxin. From what I've studied, and I need to study it some more, Agent Orange was a mixture of two herbicides, 2,4-D, which is still used to this day, and 2,4,5-T. I've had a harder time. I haven't studied that one quite as much. I don't know how readily available that is. But dioxin was a byproduct of the manufacturing, and yeah, very bad news for people. So I don't think Agent Orange was as bad as it was played up to be. It's the contaminant in the Agent Orange that they used, not the Agent Orange itself.
So you're just openly advocating to bring back Agent Orange?
Yeah, man, I got weeds in my driveway, son. I'd love if they'd dry up in 3 days. You go spray them with regular Walmart, whatever, chemicals, and it takes 2 weeks for them to die, and then they come back or whatever. I don't know.
Mix diesel fuel with it. Or gas.
That helps. Okay, guys, that's enough for random politics and world events. Anything interesting happen to you this month?
I'd say my highlight of the month was probably a trip to Mexico. See a friend down there for a wedding. So that was interesting. Different culture, definitely different roads. We could drive as fast as we want. That was one little highlight.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you made it back alive.
Did make it back alive. Did almost wreck one time. But, yeah, we were alright.
And
When you're driving a rental car with bad headlights in the middle of a bad road, kind of like, maybe take it a little easy. I was in a hurry to get back to the airport, so I ended up off the shoulder on the wrong side of it. Well, the road split real hard on me. So I ended up taking the wrong side because I never saw the other side where it split. My lights were bad, and it's not marked very good. A lot of the roads are very bad. There's no lighting. The markings are bad. They don't have reflectors on most of them. Potholes everywhere. And there's no signs or anything. All of a sudden, I'm flying down the road, main road. We're going good. And it's a 2-lane road, but 2-lane road in Mexico means it's at least a 3-lane road. I mean, some eyes too. Like, everyone drives kind of on the shoulder, and whoever gets there first drives through the middle. So, flying down the road, and I get to the Y. Never see Y or anything. And all of a sudden, I'm on the shoulder, which in this case is grass, dirt, rocks, and everything. I'm stepping on my brakes. I just went skidding along. I saw semi lights coming at me, and I was like, this ain't good. So we got her stopped, and I had an SUV, thankfully, so just drove out through the rocks and dirt and whatever, and got back on the proper part of the road once I found it again. Kind of like searching for a needle in a haystack, but we got it, and we were good.
Congrats.
So no damages there.
Wow, that's crazy.
Very good. Well, as I said, I was in Puerto Rico. I was in Puerto Rico most of the month of June. Interesting thing from down there, if you've never been there, especially where we were, not San Juan. San Juan is the largest city, I believe. A lot of people there, but even when you get out, it doesn't really matter where you go in the island. It seems like the roads are always busy. There's always tons of traffic any time of day or whenever, evening. There's just a lot of traffic. But I went and researched population density, and per AI, they have 945 people per square mile, contrary to our big, beautiful Missouri, which is 88. So, you're looking at
God bless Missouri.
Probably about 10 times the amount of people there per square mile. So that kind of explains why all the roads are always full of people. The driving's interesting, but there are speed limits, and people tend to drive slower than here in the States, partly because the roads are worse. Probably because all the federal money that goes for them, most of it gets not used for the roads. Kind of a corrupt government down there to some degree.
Interesting. So how different is it from American culture? I mean, obviously the language, and do they use American dollars and stuff?
Yeah, American dollars. They're really confused about using standard versus metric. They have speed limits in miles per hour, but road markers are in kilometers. Fuel is sold in liters. But they sell things by the pound in stores. Just a very interesting mix of the metric and standard system. But I mean, American dollar, and there's some law enforcement, so it's not as corrupt as probably Mexico or somewhere else.
Do they eat tacos?
Some. No, they're not really.
What's
it's not.
their name?
It's not a Mexican cuisine. It's distinctly different.
Gotcha.
Puerto Rican cuisine, very different.
Nice.
So what I was going to say was, I really appreciate being on here, and it was a lot of fun. That's what I was going to say.
Okay, guys, I think it's time to wrap up that very chaotic recording session.
And,
Doug, you want to hit us with our platforms?
It's been a good time, though, boys.
It
Thanks
definitely was.
to y'all for coming out for this. Hopefully it'll be
Thanks
a
for
little
letting
more,
me say just a couple words on there.
We appreciate that a lot.
Maybe it'll be a little more streamlined in the future and we get more, usable content.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of the Nuggy Guys podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Amazon Music. And feel free to hit the follow, subscribe, whatever platform you're on, and share with a friend if you feel like we deserve it.
And happy July 4th.
And as always, be careful out there.